Saturday, October 2, 2021. This is Rick with the Mercedes Diesel Guy channel, and this is my 2005 Toyota Sienna project. I'm going to be replacing the rear shocks today, and I'm going to show you how to do that. Before I do that, just for the subscribers, I'm sorry there hasn't been any video in the last couple of weeks. 2 weekends ago, I got completely rained out, and as I've said before, I don't have a garage to work with, so it was pouring all weekend, couldn't do anything out here. Last weekend, I was busy all day Saturday. You know, the kid at the soccer game, the whole family went to a baseball game, and saw some friends late in the day, and then on Sunday, last weekend, a couple of people in the family were sick. Not COVID, thankfully, but basically it's been about 3 weeks since I've been able to do any work on the Sienna here, so I'm getting back into it now, and like I said, I'm going to be replacing the rear shocks. So the first thing I'm going to do is loosen but not remove the rear lug nuts. Now I find that much easier to do with the vehicle on the ground, so I'm just going to loosen all 10 lugs here in the rear, and then I'll show you how to raise the rear. Forgive me for going handheld with the camera for a moment. I've loosened the lugs on the rear wheels, and now I'm going to raise the rear. I'm going to be using a floor jack here, and let me just show you the factory approved jack point underneath the rear here. Okay, here I am going under the rear, and I apologize for the lack of light. So if you see right here, this is the factory approved lift point, so I'm going to get my floor jack under there and raise up the rear. Okay, now that I have both rear wheels off the ground, I'm going to get some jack stands underneath the van. Okay, now I have the rear supported on jack stands, and the factory approved place to place the jack stands is kind of here at the rear of the not sure quite what to call it there, the pinch weld, the rail at the bottom. So now I'm going to remove the rear wheels, and if you want for extra safety, you can also chock the front wheels. So now I'm going to remove the rear wheel. Okay, I have the wheel off. And one more thing you can do for a little extra safety is you can actually put the wheel down and just slide it under here. So if for any reason your jack stand fails, at least the wheel will theoretically catch everything. So now that you have the rear wheel off and everything is supported, you need to remove the lower shock absorber mounting fastener. So if you go underneath here, here's the fastener. In my case, it's 19mm. I don't know if it's the same for every model year or if these are original fasteners from the factory, but that's what it is for me. So I'm going to remove the shock absorber fastener off. You come in here in the rear hatch area, and you pry out this cover piece. And in my case now, there is a dust boot over the upper shock absorber fastener. So I'm going to pull that off. And now you have to remove this nut here. In my case, it is a 17mm nut. Once again, I don't know if that's how they came from the factory or if that's the same for all model years. So I'm going to remove this now. Just wanted to show you one thing here. I started loosening the nut, but the shock absorber rod was spinning with the nut. It was not loosening. So I noticed that in my case, I can insert an Allen key in there, in this case 6mm, to counterhold the shock absorber rod while I loosen the nut. So that's what I'm going to do. I'm going to counterhold with an Allen key. So once you have that nut loosened, you remove it, and you remove the hardware. And once you have that hardware removed, you go back underneath the van, you wiggle the shock off its lower mounting point, and then you can lower it out of the van. Okay, so here is the old shock on the left and the new one on the right. Now, I really had no idea what was in here before, but I brushed off some dust on the bottom there, and the one that came out is a KYB shock, and I think I'm reading a March 2007 date code on it. So my guess is these shocks were replaced at some point. Probably not in March of 2007. If I had to guess, I would say those are probably sitting on a shelf somewhere for a good long time, but my guess is these are not original to the van. I have on the right here a Monroe shock to go in, and I actually thought that this shock was probably... I actually thought that the old one was probably pretty much completely dead, but it is still rebounding. Not quite as fast as I would have expected, but on the other hand, it does seem probably more sturdy and better built than the Monroe. So probably what I'm going to do is I'm going to save these old KYB shocks as just as spares, just in case these Monroe shocks are terrible. But I've used Monroe OE Spectrum hardware many times in the past over the years, and I've never had any complaints with it. So I'm going to install this now, and then I'm going to move on and do the other side before I completely lose light for the day. So this is Rick with the Mercedes Diesel Guide channel. Thanks for watching, and I'm going to close here by showing you the torque specs for this job.